Former Chargers tight end Antonio Gates is a nominee for the NFL Hall of Fame for the class of 2024. Gates played all 16 of his NFL seasons with the Chargers. The three-time Pro Bowler holds the NFL record for tight ends with 116 touchdown catches. What a great player he was. The 2024 class will be announced in January. The Washington Commanders are one of 9 undefeated NFL teams after 2 weeks. Big props to Washington's new offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy. His offense is averaging 27.5 points per game. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Follow the leader.
Following the leader.
Oh my God.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
And it is Areva Martin in real time. Avi Bernard here with you in for Areva Martin today. And let's get you all caught up. Kevin De Leon, the Los Angeles City Council member who became politically radioactive after a leaked audio scandal, he's actually running for re-election, a brash bet that voters will salvage his career. He was one of 4 participants in a secretly recorded conversation about redrawing the city council's political district. The inflammatory conversation included racist remarks about a fellow council member's black son, disparaging comments about Oaxacans, and a zero-sum political outlook that prioritized Latino power above all else. His Wednesday announcement settles the speculation whether De Leon would appear again on a ballot after countless calls for his resignation last fall, including from President Joe Biden. The White House today announced the launch of the American Climate Corps, which the administration said will mobilize more than 20,000 American jobs or Americans in the clean energy and climate resilience sectors. The White House is also creating a website where people interested in joining the effort can sign up for information. The White House said the American Climate Corps will train young people in clean energy, conservation, and climate resilience related skills and streamline pathways into civil service, and the Corps members will be paid. Arizona Republican Kari Lake will launch a Senate run as soon as early next month, according to 3 people familiar with her plans. Lake is a hardcore supporter of Donald Trump, who refused to concede her narrow loss in Arizona's governor race last year, and she's been hinting at a bid for months. The Arizona race is a crucial swing state that could determine control of the Senate. Kyrsten Sinema's switch from Democrat to independent last year roiled the race for her seat, and she has not said whether or not she will seek re-election. And Democratic Rep. Ruben Gallego has already launched a Senate campaign. John Fetterman has gotten scrutiny over a new Senate dress code. He's leaned into a right-wing conspiracy that he has a body double, and now the Pennsylvania Democrat is turning those controversies into fresh campaign merch. Fetterman's campaign is now selling a t-shirt that reads, John Fetterman's body double, and a hoodie that reads, I vote in this hoodie. It's not just in the merch store where Fetterman is milking the dress code. As evidenced by a written statement today, he said, if those jagoffs, that's jagoffs, J-A-G, just in case the FEC is listening, if those jagoffs in the House stop trying to shut our government down and fully support Ukraine, then I will save democracy by wearing a suit on the Senate floor next week. And the Federal Reserve left the main U.S. interest rate unchanged today, waiting to see if its historic series of rate hikes over the last 18 months gets inflation under control. The central bank kept its main policy rate in the range of 5.25% to 5.5%, citing an easing of economic conditions while also acknowledging that inflation is still higher than its 2% target. House Republicans and Attorney General Merrick Garland clashed today at a testy hearing that offered a preview of the coming Republican impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden, focused on allegations surrounding his son, Hunter Biden. Judiciary Committee Republicans peppered Garland with questions about the Justice Department investigation into Hunter Biden, charging that Garland and the special counsel investigating the case, David Weiss, were doing the bidding of the Bidens by offering Hunter Biden a plea deal that fell apart amid scrutiny from a judge. Garland forcefully pushed back against the criticisms, saying he did not interfere in the investigation and that Weiss was given all the resources he asked for in the probe. He repeatedly declined to engage on specifics of the probe. And Rudy Giuliani is in a couple of stories today. He owes nearly $1.4 million to the law firm that defended him during numerous criminal, civil, and congressional investigations. Giuliani has paid $214,000 to the firm since November 2019. And Costello, who was a member of the firm represented him during criminal investigations in New York, Georgia, and Washington, the House January 6th investigation, 10 civil lawsuits in various state and federal courts, and, of course, disciplinary proceedings involving Giuliani's law license. And that's not it for Giuliani. Cassidy Hutchinson, the former Trump White House aide, claims in a new book that Rudy Giuliani groped her backstage at the rally that preceded Donald Trump supporters' insurrection at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. And finally, Adidas CEO Bjorn Gulden said he doesn't think Kanye West meant what he said when the rapper spewed anti-Semitic comments last year. In a recent podcast interview, Gulden complimented West, also known as Ye, calling him one of the most creative people in the world. Gulden said the fact that Ye made the statements wasn't that good and led Adidas to break the contract and withdrew the product, referencing the end of its Yeezy line. All right, when we come forward, we are going to be welcoming our wonderful contributors to the conversation, Katrina Robinson, consultant and former Tennessee State Senator, and Dr. Nyambi Carter, author and professor at the University of Maryland. We will get right to it when we come forward right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's the real deal in real time. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to K-Drip, where we play all the best classic water-wasting hits like Sprinklers in the Rain and Leaky Faucets. They're tunes from another time because now that we face a hotter, drier future, every drop counts. Despite an extremely wet winter, keep using less water, fixing leaks, and reusing indoor water for your garden. Visit SaveOurWater.com for more ways to conserve. Up next, brushing your teeth with the water on. K-Drip.
Today is August 22nd, 2023 for Deutsche Taco Bell Radio. Spot title E8 Rolled Chicken Tacos Dipping Sauces Radio 30. Ad ID TCGRCH33000. Stereo mono compatible mix with 2-pop.
What makes Taco Bell's rolled chicken tacos so good? Is it the shredded marinated all white meat chicken? Well, yeah, obviously. But it's also the 3 amazing dipping sauces to choose from: spicy ranch, warm nacho cheese sauce, and house-made daily guacamole. Now, if you need a third reason, their white corn tortillas are fried to golden perfection, which everyone knows is the best kind of perfection. Order rolled chicken tacos on the Taco Bell app. Get 1 dip for 2-pack or 2 dips for 4-pack at participating Taco Bell stores for a limited time only while supplies last.
Girl, I have a secret. When I get stressed out, I get sweaty. That's why I use Secret Clinical Antiperspirant. It's like my own secret weapon. For 72 hours, I get Secret's strongest protection against sweat caused by stress, heat, and activity, because you know how crazy life can get. Plus, it's made with advanced odor fighters that don't just cover up smelliness. They help prevent it from happening in the first place. Believe me, if I weren't wearing Secret, I'd be a hot, smelly mess. Thankfully, Secret works.
I have diabetes. I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
I have asthma. I'm at risk too.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine, a vaccine that can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just 1 dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
The way we spend our time defines who we are. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
And we're back on Areva Martin in real time. Avi Bernard in for Areva Martin today. And I am very grateful to be joined by Katrina Robinson, consultant and former Tennessee State Senator, and Dr. Niambi Carter, author and professor at the University of Maryland. Ladies, welcome to both of you. I want to start with this Kevin DeLeon story. I was, I guess, not surprised, but definitely disappointed that Mr. DeLeon decided to run for re-election. But as I said, I'm not surprised because he is the only one of the 4 members of the LA City Council who did not resign after that secretly recorded racist conversation. So, Dr. Carter, let's start with you. What are your thoughts on this? And I know you're in the University of Maryland, but you're in Maryland at the University of Maryland. What do you think of the prospects of Kevin DeLeon being reelected to the LA City Council?
I mean, we've certainly seen people do worse things get reelected. I mean, I think it'll be interesting how Latino voters in the city respond to him, in addition to Black voters, of course, because those are going to be part of his voter base. I think what was really interesting is that not only did he not resign, but he didn't really give a full-throated mea culpa. I mean, it was almost like, well, this thing was said and it was unfortunate, but it wasn't really a real sort of contrition there. It was more like, well, it happened. It was, it was bad, but it's not that bad, right? The people should still trust me to be able to carry out my duties as a city council person. I do think the fact that he didn't resign was the tip off, right? That there's something there. And power is intoxicating. I mean, being a council member in a city like Los Angeles, which I think probably is one of the more important jobs that one can have in the state of California, not just in the city of Los Angeles, I think that's hard to give up. So I think he's going to count on the fact that people maybe have short memories, that there won't be any real conversation about this hiccup, so to speak, right? I mean, I think it was more than that, of course, but I'm sure there's going to be some attempt to elide that very, I think, wretched conversation that most of us heard.
Yeah, and it's interesting because he wasn't just talking about Black people, he was talking about some Latinos as well. And this goes to colorism, which isn't just alive in the Black community, it's alive in the Latino community as well. Oaxacans are more often than not dark-skinned, and he and the other members of the LA City Council were talking about Oaxacans in that conversation, basically just talking about anyone who has more melanin than them. So, Senator Robinson, what are your thoughts about this? Do you think that Kevin DeLeon has a good chance of getting reelected?
I'm not really familiar with Kevin's makeup of his district, but from what I understand, it is not predominantly Latino or Black. So that's left to be seen. I do think it says a lot for him not to resign and to seek reelection is very bold. It comes off as if I'm doubling down on what I said and what I did. And just as Dr. Robertson said, he did not admit any culpability in the whole conversation. It was just, okay, it happened. What do you want me to do about it? So now he's running for re-election. And what the voters do at the polls is going to send the message as to whether or not they approve that message.
Yeah, it's just me being an Angelino and, being right here when all that stuff happened, and just really disappointed that, as you said, Dr. Carter, he wasn't even really like, oh, yeah, I'm really sorry about that. It was just like, my bad, guys.
Yeah, I mean, and I think in that particular moment, I think that was a really important conversation that also came about at that moment, right? About, colorism within Latino communities and about how darker skinned Latinos are sort of largely left out of that sort of identification, that it's really been a sort of whitewash identity, even in a place like Los Angeles. And so these sort of discrimination against darker skinned people is treated as it's normal, it's pro forma, it's not even something we should be really upset about. So it'll be interesting to see how people respond, because I agree with Katrina that this will really be a testimony about the voters of Los Angeles and whether he can continue to perform in a position of trust with these kinds of attitudes just rolling around and saying them so freely and sharing them with colleagues. I mean, these weren't even like secret thoughts he had to himself or text messages that he sent to a very close friend. These are things he's saying in a public building. That's the, I think, part that really sticks in a lot of people's craw.
Yeah, this is the full-on meeting they were having. It wasn't a full city council meeting, but there were a lot of people there. You know, maybe like at least 4, obviously the 4 that were caught up, but maybe at least a half dozen members or people in that meeting, and they're just talking about this like it's cool, like it's all good. And I'm gonna need the people of Los Angeles to stand up. I'm gonna keep talking about this. We're gonna keep talking about this because I need Latinos to represent on this one. All right, and it's not like he's in a seat that is in danger of going to a conservative. He's in a seat that is going to stay with someone who's very liberal. Even if he doesn't run, he's going to be primaried by someone who's just as liberal as he is. So it's going to be the same policies. You're not in danger of having this the policies you favor affected by this. So just vote him out. Send the message. Just the way that we would do if someone was talking about Latinos, the way that he was talking about Black people. That's my ask, and we'll continue to talk about this as it gets closer to that actual election. But there's a lot to talk about today, and I want to talk about, speaking of people who are running for office again, Kari Lake in Arizona, just psychopath adjacent at least. She ran for governor. She ran for governor of Arizona. She narrowly lost to Katie Hobbs. Still has not acknowledged that defeat. She is one of Donald Trump's biggest supporters. I think she's probably one of his best candidates for vice president, even though she's not in the presidential race. And by best, I mean for him, based on what he likes. I don't think she should hold any office. And the voters of Arizona rejected her in the last election. But now, instead of governor, she's running for Senate. And that seat is going to be, that race for that seat is going to be crazy, because you have Kari Lake now. I think Blake Masters, the guy who lost the other Senate seat to Mark Kelly, he might be in the race too. Then you have Kirsten Sinema's crazy ass. Now she switched from Democrat to independent. She's basically a de facto Republican anyway. And then you have Ruben Gallego, who I think is a great candidate, who has already declared to be running in that race. So you might have a 3-way race between Gallego, Sinema as an independent, and either Kari Lake or Blake Masters. Senator Robinson, let's start with you on this one. This she hasn't officially announced yet, but this, when she probably does announce, this is going to be a crazy race. I just want to get your thoughts on the dynamic of the race. And this is a race that could flip the Senate. Do you think that Democrats have a better chance of holding that seat with Ruben Gallego running as a Democrat, even if he has to potentially go up against Kirsten Sinema as an independent and a hardcore right-wing Republican?
I think that seat, actually, I think it may be a win for Gallego, to be honest with you. I call her Confusion Cinema because she don't know what she wants to do. But she's basically the blame for all of this. I mean, if it weren't for her, then Kari Lake probably wouldn't be in this race. I really don't think Kari stands a chance. I think she just got to the point where she figured she wasn't going to be the VP nominee for Trump, and now she's going to run for Senate. She doesn't really know what she wants to do, but I think Gallego does stand a chance in this race.
Confusion Cinema. I'm going to have to borrow that one from you there, Katrina. That's a good one. And yeah, and she's messed up a lot of things other than this race. You know, some of those really close votes, especially with the Build Back Better bill and things that really could have helped out a lot of Americans. She refused to support those things because she does have a lot of ties to corporate money. And so, Dr. Carter, what do you think? Do you think that that Kari Lake getting in this race makes a difference, or do you think it makes a difference whether it's her or Blake Masters? Do you think that Ruben Gallego is going to lose the race either way, or what do you think?
Well, look, I think Gallego has the ability to win. I mean, I think people have been, at least the Arizonans, by their own sort of metrics, have said that they are not happy. They don't like Kari Lake. They don't like Kirsten Sinema. Even independents don't like Kirsten Sinema. So she is not winning from the independents. She's definitely not winning the Democrats over. Even the Republicans aren't really sold about her because they're like, hey, you know, what is this you're doing, right? What is it that you actually stand for? Yes, you're conservative sometimes, but you really want the ability to sort of do whatever you want and say, well, I'm an independent. I don't feel anything. Or I have no allegiance to any particular, you know, ideological perspective. So I think, I mean, look, I think these people, all of these folks in the race actually might do Gallego some favors, because I think that the voters that they are going to be potentially attractive to are going to split their votes among them. So I actually think this could turn out to be a net positive for Gallego, but on most metrics, Lake and Cinema are tremendously unpopular among Arizonans. So I don't think it's a slam dunk necessarily for any of the Republican or this independent candidate, as it were. And we know that there are some blue pockets of Arizona that have come out pretty strong, and I'm wondering if they could replicate, right, that level of interest, particularly in an presidential year, right, and get those folks to the polls for this race, because there's a lot at stake in Arizona.
So much at stake, and I'm glad to hear you say that. I sure hope you're right, because to me it feels like there's a possibility that with Arizona being such a purple state and so many people, really in the center left or the center right, they might look at someone like Cinema and say, hey, she's better than Carrie Lake, and she's better than, Ruben Gallego is too far to the left. And so maybe even though she's very unpopular, it's possible that she pulls off even just a few percent from Gallego, and that makes a difference in the race. I hope not. It just seems like a big mess on this. But anything else to say about this, Senator Robinson, before we move on?
No, I totally agree with Yambi about this being the opportunity. I mean, Arizona's going to show what they're made of in this race, and it's all due to Kirsten Sinema. I mean, she's the one that brought this about. So I'm looking forward to see how it turns out. I mean, it does seem like a big mess, but I'm looking forward to see how the results turn out. It's really up in the air at this point, but I really think Gallego has a chance.
I'm gonna be donating to Gallego.
The messaging just has to be there.
Yeah, I'm gonna be donating to Gallego because, man, he would be a great senator for that state, especially after the term that Cinema has had. But staying in the United States Senate, John Fetterman, I love this guy. I love the story. Republicans are more trolls today than they are anything else, and so I think to a certain extent we have to learn how to troll them back. They're always talking about, he had that scare. He's had health scares. He's had mental health issues where he's been seeking therapy, which is obviously a good thing. If you have depression or any other mental health issue, it's a good thing to seek therapy. And he and Senator Fetterman did that. And of course, Republicans were talking smack about him for that. And because they're going to talk smack about people for anything that's normal or relatable. And so Fetterman now, they say he has a body double, and they talk about him because he doesn't always wear a suit, and he wears a hoodie and basketball shorts, whatever. He wears whatever he wants to the Senate floor, and I think it's kind of cool. And he's kind of trolling them now. He says he's starting like a merch campaign, and he has a shirt that says John Fetterman's body double, and he says, if these jagoffs in this House, talking about Republicans, stop trying to shut our government down and fully support Ukraine, then I'll save democracy by wearing a suit. And that to me is just the perfect juxtaposition of how ridiculous their argument is compared to the damage they're causing both here and all over the world by trying to remove support for Ukraine and on the precipice of shutting down the government. What do you think about these comments, Dr. Carter, from John Fetterman?
Well, look, I think this is very John Fetterman. I mean, John Fetterman is a Pennsylvanian through and through. I mean, he heard similar critiques. Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania. He's always worn a hoodie. He's always been a really informal guy. That's who he is. And I think, for him to be anything other than just because he's now in Congress, I just think that would go against who he is. I don't even want to say it's a brand. I just think that's him. The fact that it's marketable is a plus. But John Fetterman, I think, has always been very open and about who he is and sort of whether it be his mental health or his physical health. Very open about who he is, the way he struggles with those things. And honestly, I think a good example, right, of what you do. I mean, this is what we tell kids all the time. If you're feeling things, be open with your feelings, share those things, seek help, and all the things. And now he does it, and you want to give people critiques for that. It is I think Republicans sometimes appeal to the lowest common denominator and beating up on someone because they've had health struggles or because they've had mental health challenges. I think is pretty low even for that party, given all that we know about them and some of their members. That said, I think John Fetterman will continue to be a thorn in their side because there's nothing that they can say, nothing they can do that he hasn't heard. I mean, he's from a hard state. I mean, Pennsylvanians are notorious for being hard on their politicians. And he's not heard anything that they haven't said at least 10 times before that, right? I mean, when he beat, Mehmet Oz, I mean, part of that was because even people who necessarily weren't Democrats, believed in and understood who John Fetterman is in that context. And I don't think that's going to stop because some people want to take cheap shots and say he's a body double and all this other nonsense because of, really because of nothing, right? I mean, this is the part of the alternative facts. So they say things and of course he makes a joke out of it and sells merchandise in the process. And
this is, I think you're right. I think this is why Pennsylvanians voted for John Fetterman, and they voted for him going away. The election wasn't particularly close in the general. It wasn't particularly close in the primary, even though he was going up against like some political establishment type people in the primary. And he won that state because he is a Pennsylvania dude. I mean, that's why they voted for him, and he's not going to change up. And I think all these attacks are and the way he's leaning into them, that's just going to make him stronger in that state. What do you think, Senator Robinson?
I think it's a double-edged sword. So, of course, there is a certain, and I disagree with, from a perspective of there is a certain level of tact and decorum that's required in the legislature on normal circumstances. So, for instance, here, Justin Pearson won the Tennessee 3 in Tennessee. The first reprimand he got when he showed up to the House was he wore a dashiki. Now, a dashiki is different because that was part of his culture and what he recognized as his formal attire. However, there is a dress code on our Senate and our House floor. And I think when we start bending the rules for things like that, we start bending the rules for other things, and people start to use it for their advantage in a malicious way. And I say that to say, we may do it, we may see it as an advantage for us, but really it's a pathway for other things. As far as Fetterman is concerned, I think he's doing the right thing by capitalizing off of his struggles with dealing with certain House members. I think he apparently resonates with the people he represents. I mean, it's up to them whether or not they think that he is living up to the standard they would like for him to live up to as he presents himself on the floor. But he is doing what he's supposed to do. He's capitalizing off of his struggles by selling his merchandise or even raising money. It's a way for him to raise money for people who actually support him and think that he's being attacked. So I think he's doing what he's supposed to do.
Interesting. You think that Republicans could use this to their advantage at a certain point, but they don't even need to have an example of us doing it. They're going to do what they do regardless. That's why I think it's awesome the way he's.
I will tell you this: someone wore a Black Lives Matter shirt in the House one day, and they made her put on the jacket. The next day, somebody shows up with "Make America Great Again, Trump Forever" shirt. So I'm telling you, it's bit for bit.
But but the Senate floor doesn't have. At least as of a couple days ago, they had an informal dress code, and they can choose what they want to wear. And I think he's going to continue to wear what he's always worn. People like Chuck Schumer are going to continue to wear suits. I think it's going to be a personal choice. I think it's also.
Let's hold that thought for now. Now we've got to step aside real quick, and we can get right back to it on the other side of this news, traffic, and sports update. I do want to hear the rest of your thoughts, though. So hold that thought. And we'll get right back to it on KBLA Talk 1580.
Areva time is the right time. More of Areva Martin in real time when we come forward.
I'm Doug Davis with the latest from the Black Information Network. The United Auto Workers strike against the big three automakers is now in its 6th day. Nearly 13,000 auto workers remain on strike at 3 plants in Ohio, Michigan, and Missouri, and that number could rise in the next couple of days. In PG County, Maryland, family and friends came out to say goodbye to Black 16-year-old teen Jada Medrano Moore. Jada was gunned down earlier this month outside Duval High, trying to protect her younger brother from a group of teens that jumped him. A 17-year-old is charged as an adult in connection to her murder and is being held without bond. Out of Des Moines, Hy-Vee stores are launching a limited edition cereal to honor Black Iowa State legend Jack Trice. The Jack Trice Hy-Vee Wheat Flakes are now available in stores and will benefit the Trice Legacy Foundation. The foundation offers scholarships and grants to Black students. Trice was the first African-American athlete to play for Iowa State University. And that is the latest. I'm Doug Davis from the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
A mid-city crash has the right shoulder of the Collector Road blocked on the 10 eastbound after Vermont Avenue. It's going to be a slow and go ride from Lincoln Boulevard with about an hour delay added to your commute. In South LA on the 110 southbound, there's a stall just before Adams Boulevard blocking the middle lane. You're on the brakes from the 10 with a 5-minute delay. And in Irwindale on the 210 eastbound at Irwindale Avenue, there's a crash on the off-ramp. It's a slow ride from Mountain Avenue.
What will you find at Macy's Backstage? Here's a hint. Fall finds for $25 and under, like sharp blazers, cozy sweaters, cargo pants, jackets, and more. Find the latest trends and new arrivals at a Macy's Backstage store near you.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers are on a late season roll. They've won 5 straight. The Dodgers are still within reach of Atlanta for the best record in the major leagues. They're 3.5 games behind Atlanta. Whoever ends the regular season with the best record gets home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Former Chargers tight end Antonio Gates is a nominee for the NFL Hall of Fame for the class of 2024. Gates played all 16 of his NFL seasons with the Chargers. The 3-time Pro Bowler holds the NFL record for tight ends with 116 touchdown catches. What a great player he was. The 2024 class will be announced in January. The Washington Commanders are one of 9 undefeated NFL teams after 2 weeks. Big props to Washington's new offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy. His offense is averaging 27.5 points per game. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Follow the leader.
Oh my God.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Applications are now being accepted for the City of Los Angeles Emergency Renters Assistance Program. The program provides up to 6 months of rental arrears to low-income residential renters who are at risk of homelessness due to unpaid rent as a result of COVID-19 or other financial hardship. Applications will not be accepted after 6 p.m. on October 2nd, 2023. Go online 24/7 at housing.lacity.org or call 888-379-3150 from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday and see if you qualify. Apply today.
At Grainger, we're for the ones who pay attention to every little detail. The ones who fuss, tinker, and sweat the small stuff. Because you know the tiniest thing can make the biggest difference when it comes to keeping business moving. We get it. We're the same way. Offering access to product experts to help you quickly and easily find what you need. So whatever your industry, you know you're always getting professional-grade products. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Do you struggle with occasional nerve aches in your hands or feet? Try Nervive Nerve Relief from the world's #1 nerve care company. Nervive tablets contain alpha-lipoic acid to relieve nerve aches, weakness, and discomfort, plus B-complex vitamins to support healthy nerve function as you age. Live life with less nerve discomfort with Nervive Nerve Relief. Learn more at nervivehealth.com. And try Nervive Pain Relieving Cream to block nerve pain signals at the source. Use as directed.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
The rent is too damn high. KBLA joins you in calling for affordable housing. The LA Tenants Union is a diverse, tenant-led movement fighting for the human right to housing for all. The LA Tenants Union demands safe, affordable housing and union rent control. They organize against landlord harassment, mass evictions, and displacement, and mobilize for the repeal of the Ellis Act and Costa-Hawkins Act. The LA Tenants Union is on a mission to strengthen tenants' political power through education, advocacy, and direct action. To get help with your eviction or other landlord-tenant issues, take action for justice, or become a member, visit latenantsunion.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
There's no time like the present. Let's get back to more of Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
And we're back on Areva Martin in real time. Avi Bernard in for Areva Martin today. And we're joined by Dr. Nyambi Carter and Katrina Robinson. All right, ladies. Dr. Carter, you were saying something. I didn't mean to cut you off, but please finish your thought. We're talking about John Fetterman and his lack of adherence to the Senate dress code, and that has led to Senator Chuck Schumer, the majority leader, changing the rules for him. But you're saying
he didn't change the rules for him. He changed the rules for everyone because it wasn't clear that actually written down. The only thing that they can't do is be on the floor without a tie. And he voted from the doorway. Josh Hawley has done it. So I think the question, though, is why these rules exist, whether we think they matter to doing the work. I mean, clearly what people wear hasn't actually moved the needle on legislation in the body. So what we think the correlation is between what people wear and what the business of that body is, I think may need some readjustment. And perhaps this moment is when we will start to scrutinize kind of what is useful about these things and what they mean for how people approach the body. And I think that's a very real conversation, whether we're talking about John Fetterman or other members of the Senate and also the House.
Yeah, I mean, it's that's funny that he voted from the doorway. That's hilarious to me. And I think, and I wasn't saying he changed the rules just for him. I was saying he changed the rules for him, as in like because of him, because of his situation, he changed the rules for everybody. But what are your thoughts about that, Senator Robinson, about why is it even important what they wear to the Senate in terms of the legislation they pass? Because Republicans, to Dr. Carter's point, have been psycho this whole time. They haven't swayed away from being racist and anti-LGBTQ, anti-woman, and basically any kind of equity they're against, and they're not shy about that. And what does it matter if they're doing that wearing a suit?
I mean, I'm the wrong person to ask about this, Avi, because I believe in dress code in certain positions in certain environments. I mean, I think teachers dress to X these days. I mean, that's just how I was raised. When you do a certain job and you go certain places, you dress a certain way. It doesn't have anything to do with party, race, or gender. That's just how I was raised. So, I mean, I'm not the right person to ask about that.
It's okay. We can agree to disagree. We don't have to agree on everything, and you're absolutely entitled to feel how you feel, especially as someone who served in elected office in the Tennessee State Senate. So let's talk about, we have so much to talk about today, but let's talk about Rudy Giuliani. This dude here. Boy. All right, so I'm not even sure which one of the two things he's in today to talk about. So Cassidy Hutchinson, who was a star witness for the January 6th committee, she claims that he groped her. So that's a sexual assault allegation. And he's also being sued by his former lawyers for, I believe it's $1.4 million. So which one of those should we start with, Dr. Carter? I'm not even sure. Which should choose?
Well, I don't think these things are separate issues, right? So this sexual assault, or alleged sexual assault, we should say, and part of the reason why he has $1.4 million in legal fees is because of a pattern and practice of bad behavior on the part of Rudy Giuliani. Of course, this has to do with election denial, and all that other kind of stuff, the conspiracies around the last election. But it certainly again, is about a man who seems to be out of control of himself in particular ways, which requires him to have legal fees that are amounting, right? I mean, that's 1.4 million now that he owes, but this is still an ongoing legal case. So this is going to be more. This additional alleged assault is another place where he is going to have to put some resources, which I don't know if he has said resources, quite frankly. Because I would imagine if you had them, given the charges that he's facing, you would probably want to pay your attorneys first. Right. So I don't know where we go with this, but I think it is interesting that now we're a week beyond September 11th and the commemorations of that. And if we can think about what the Rudy Giuliani image was then till now, I mean, it does make one's head spin, right? Because it's like how far the mighty have fallen.
It makes one's head spin. It makes one's hair dye fall out. In the case of Rudy Giuliani on live national TV. Senator Robinson, I mean, you make a good point, Dr. Carter. He owes his lawyers a lot of money because he's always in trouble. And this reminds me of the movie Liar Liar with Jim Carrey. He has a client who's always breaking the law, and his secretary says, "Oh, so-and-so's on the line for you. He wants your expert legal advice." "You want my advice? Stop breaking the law." And so that's kind of where we are with Rudy Giuliani. But to Dr. Carter's point, if he wouldn't have been hanging out with Donald Trump and trying to jump on the Trump train and trying to hold on to any semblance of relevance and power at all costs, he wouldn't be in this situation. If he would have just chilled out and enjoyed the decent amount of money that he had. He's not a wealthy person, but he had enough money certainly to get by for the rest of his life. Now he's in financial straits. He's not in a good situation financially. But what are your thoughts about these dual stories we saw about Rudy Giuliani today?
I mean, it's exactly what you said. Just stop breaking the law. I mean, he's got charges he's trying to fight. The lawyers have to represent him in disciplinary hearings for his license. Now he's got a sexual harassment. I mean, what do you expect? You're going to owe him upwards of $3 million when you get done. Rudy Giuliani, I mean, as my mom said, you're the summation of your three closest friends. So think about who his friends are. He doesn't have a choice but to be in trouble. But this is really not a surprise to me. And I understand the young lady has written her book, so of course it's coming out at the most opportune time. But I would not put it past Rudy Giuliani to be, guilty of those allegations. But it's everything coming to light. As they say, what's done in the dark will come to the light.
Do you think this particular allegation from Cassidy Hutchinson will change things at all for him? He's obviously been in legal trouble for a long time. That's why he's got so many lawyer fees that he's not able to pay. But do you think this allegation, Dr. Carter, is something that is different than the rest of the trouble he's in?
Well, certainly. I mean, when you're talking about, not to say that one is better or worse, but violating someone's body is very different to me, right, than what was attempted at the election. And that's a violation of the people as well. So I'm not suggesting that it's not. But there's something about sexual assault that is a particularly pernicious crime. And I think when you talk to people, not just women, but people who've experienced sexual assault, they can attest to what it does to you mentally, emotionally, and otherwise. So I think that part of it is different. But I will say, for the people who are diehard supporters of Rudy Giuliani and those of his ilk, this will mean nothing to them, right? Right now, former President Donald Trump is still the front runner in a Republican field, and this man has been found civilly liable of sexual assault in the state of New York of E. Jean Carroll, and then had to pay her because of this assault and because of the defamation claim that he tried to bring forward. So this is clearly a party as voters and as elected officials and other members of the political elite. This is not a disqualifying charge, which is quite dismaying.
Yeah, it's clearly not. It's not. It should be, but it's not. And we've seen this going back to Trump's first run at office in 2016. You know, just casually talking about grabbing women without their consent, and it didn't mean anything. The dude still won. And so it is sad that this is the state of the world. But I'm glad he's at least getting. He hasn't even been charged. It's just an allegation at this point, I believe. And so, but I love seeing these people held accountable to whatever level they're held accountable to. The more accountability, the better. But, you know, it starts with an allegation, and sometimes it gets to a charge. And all the legal trouble that he and Donald Trump are in, they deserve it. And I'm really looking forward to seeing these cases play out. But when we come forward, though, I do want to talk about something non-political, at least elected politics. You know, you are both very astute political minds, and I always enjoy hearing your perspectives, but I want to talk about something a little bit closer to the culture realm, and that, of course, is Kanye West, because Adidas the Adidas CEO says that he doesn't think Kanye West meant what he said. Now, this is it's always difficult to know what someone is thinking, but the best we can do is kind of look for a pattern and look for consistencies in things that they say and do. So we'll talk about that story when we come forward right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's the real deal in real time. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, this is LA City Councilman Curran Price, inviting you to the 28th Annual Central Avenue Jazz Festival on September the 23rd from 11 to 7 p.m. For nearly 3 decades, the Central Avenue Jazz Festival has paid homage to the legendary Central Avenue and its influence on jazz history. Jazz, blues, and Latin jazz will be featured on 3 stages of music. Co-headlining are Hubert Laws with special guest Eloise Laws and the Billy Childs Quartet featuring Sean Jones. The day includes plenty of food, merchants, and 4 pavilions focused on youth programming, art, health and wellness, and public resources. Parking is limited, so Metro and rideshare are recommended. Hubert Laws with special guests Eloise Laws and the Billy Childs Quartet featuring Sean Jones. The day includes plenty of food, merchants, and 4 pavilions focused on youth programming, art, health and wellness, and public resources. For more information, visit CentralAveJazzFest.com. CentralAveJazzFest.com. See you on the 23rd.
Have you heard about Lendistry? Lendistry is a national Black-led small business lender that is headquartered right here in LA. Once you've started your business, Lendistry provides flexible financing options starting at $50,000 to help you access the affordable capital needed to grow. Whether financing is needed to increase working capital, acquire a business, purchase inventory and equipment, or refinance debt, Lendistry has a solution for you. Lending products range from traditional business term loans and non-revolving lines of credit to SBA 7A loans and commercial real estate financing. Lendistry's pre-application process is simple and does not impact your credit score. Visit lendistry.com/KBLA to learn more and to get started with an application right from the website.
Did you know addiction to drugs like meth or cocaine is a disease and not a choice? But getting help is. If you have stimulant use disorder, you, your family, and friends may have a lot of questions, including where to start. Choose Change California can help. Make a change today and find a proven treatment option for you at choosechangeca.org.
Mom's early Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take.
And when I left the oven on, we decided together that it was time to see a doctor and make a plan.
Early detection gave us more time to seek out information and support as a family.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. For more information, visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
The way we spend our time defines who we are. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
And we're back on Areva Martin in real time. Avi Bernard in for Areva Martin today. Very pleased to be joined by Dr. Niambi Carter, author and professor at the University of Maryland, and Katrina Robinson, former Tennessee State Senator and consultant. Okay, ladies, I do want to talk about this Kanye West story, and this isn't on this day. It's not something that he did or said, but rather someone else saying that he didn't mean something he said. Adidas CEO Bjorn Gulden said he doesn't think that Kanye West meant what he said when the rapper spewed anti-Semitic comments last year. And this wasn't just an isolated incident. It wasn't something he said once. It's something that he has alluded to and then got further and further into and more disrespectful as he continued to comment on the subject. And so I wanted to talk about this because first of all, for me, I've been done with Kanye West since he said slavery was a choice. And that to me was the point when I was no longer interested in supporting him as an artist. And, you can, the cancel culture conversation is a different conversation. But for me, I make the decision personally, whether I want to continue to support someone based on things they say or do. And if he's saying that kind of things, I don't care what he's rapping about. And all the things that he used to rap about in his early days, talking about they make us love their wealth and hate ourselves, things like that, they don't mean as much because it doesn't feel like he meant it because he's all about money now, and that's it. And so I've been done with him since then. As someone who is both Black and Jewish, when he started making anti-Semitic comments, for me, it was like, okay, well, I was already done with you, but this is another level of disrespect. And so you're just going further and further away from the shore for me at this point. But Dr. Carter, what are your thoughts about what the CEO of Adidas, Bjorn Gulden, said? He talking about Kanye West didn't mean what he said. That's a hell of a thing to say.
Well, listen, I think, claiming any knowledge of what another adult thinks or feels or actually believes is not something any of us should be in the business of doing, particularly when we're talking about said adult who doubled down on many of these same tropes, right, around Jewish people owning things or running things or having some sort of cabal, right, that is sort of operating. And I think it's really rich that a Norwegian who is the head of a German company, given the sensitivity that Germans have about and around the Holocaust and anti-Semitism and things like that he would say that, because it seems like, you're getting in the way of your own business, right? It just made no sense, because even when they re-released all of the Yeezy merchandise, right, that they were going to, provide some of the proceeds to charity, it just is an odd choice, because people kind of let that ride because people actually wanted to purchase Yeezys. And here you are coming forward to say, well, he didn't really mean it. And I don't know what Adidas gets out of it as a company, what he gets out of it as their CEO. At least he's the CEO tonight. I don't know if he'll be the CEO tomorrow. I don't get it. I don't get it.
I don't get it either. It's not just that he was saying these things. It's look at who he hangs out with. This dude, of course, became a Trump supporter, and Trump's rallies are frequently attended by actual Nazis, people who fly Confederate flags, people who fly Nazi flags, people at the January 6th insurrection wearing Camp Auschwitz shirts and stuff. And he's also hanging out with Nick Fuentes, a noted white supremacist, and you're over there having dinner with this dude, and not just white supremacist, but anti-Black. Nick Fuentes has said the N-word many times, and Kanye's over here having dinner with him. And so, your thoughts on this, Senator Robinson?
As Niambi said, I don't know if he's going to be the CEO tomorrow. I don't know if he has a personal relationship with Kanye. I don't really know why he would come forward and say he doesn't think that Kanye meant what he said. I don't know if there's anyone that can keep their credibility and speak for another adult and their feelings behind the things that they say. But my extensive nursing background does tell me that Kanye does have a touch of mental illness that he refuses to acknowledge. So I kind of understand where there could be a basis for him to say that if he were thinking that lens, but I don't think that's where it was coming from. I really don't know why he would come out and say something like that, because it's insensitive to not only to his company, but to the people that they serve on every spectrum.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was thinking about the mental health aspect of this, and Kanye West, for someone in myself who is not at all a doctor or mental health professional, does appear to be suffering mental health issues. And I do have people who are close to me who have severe bipolar disorder, who I've seen having the worst breakdowns you can imagine, and it's a horrible situation. And I'm not able, or I have no desire to diagnose him, but that could be a component of this. But he's not a doctor either. And so if you're saying he didn't mean it because he was going through a mental health issue, he could have said that. You know what I mean? He could have said, well, I think he just has some mental health issue, and maybe that, you know, his mind isn't right now. He could have said something like that, but that's not what he said. He said, he didn't mean it. He's not that bad. It's, you know, that's kind of what the statement said to me, was like,
Well, I mean, I think too, listen, mental illness has a lot of manifestations, to Senator Robinson's point, right? Like, it can make people say things that are really out of left field and not in their general character. It doesn't necessarily mean that the things people have to say have to be racist and or anti-Semitic, right? And I think, given the resources that Kanye has, I think that's why he is given the pass that he's often given, because he is fabulously wealthy. He travels in lots of circles that people only can envy. And he's treated like the eccentric artist, and not as a person who actually needs some help. And I always think about, my mom said, the people who love you will make sure you don't say things that are damaging to you and other people. And so I wonder, who loves Kanye and who's around Kanye right now and not assisting him in single-handedly destroying his own legacy, while he is struggling with whatever he's going through.
Yeah, well said. And one of the best examples of that is, to me, the song by J. Cole, False Prophets. He has a whole verse about Kanye, and if you haven't heard that, I recommend it. But before we get out of here, Dr. Carter, how can we follow you? Is there a social media handle you'd like to share with the people?
Sure. I'm on Twitter as Dr. _NM Carter, and also on Instagram, same at Dr. _Niambi Carter.
And Senator Robinson, how about you?
You can find me most active on Instagram at Senator Katrina Robinson. It's also there on Facebook as well. I don't subscribe to X anymore, but my website is thekatrinarobinson.com.
Yeah, and you called it X, and I'm with you, Dr. Carter. I still call it Twitter. And either way, if they're about to start charging a subscription fee, which I believe they are, I'm gone. I'm right behind you on that one, Katrina. Well, thank you very much, both of you, for joining us. Always a pleasure to hear your thoughts. And we look forward to speaking with you again soon. I know you're out there at CBC, Senator Robinson, so enjoy yourself and be safe, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Dr. Carter. You can just swing down here. It's not too far from you.
Yes, I'll be down there on Friday.
All right.
Awesome.
There it is there. Y'all have a good time out there. I'll be out here in LA by myself.
Hold it down for us.
All right. Have a good time. Take care.
All right.
Thank
you. Bye-bye.
When we come forward, we're going to be talking about the UAW strike. We have Mike Williams, a senior fellow at the Center for American Progress. And coming up later in the hour, we're going to be joined by economic reporter Eleanor Muller, who has a new article on Politico about why the UAW strike could be going on for quite a while. But we're going to talk to both of these experts right after this news, traffic, and sports update when we come forward right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Doug Davis with the latest from the Black Information Network. The Federal Reserve is once again pausing interest